ONGold Resources is a junior exploration company building a portfolio in northern Ontario with additional exposure near the Ontario-Manitoba border. This is the kind of clean, quiet exploration story I like. Less hype, more geology and execution. Quick disclaimer. This channel is educational only and not investment advice. I'm focusing on geology, history, jurisdiction, infrastructure, management, stock health and public disclosures. No price targets, no buy-sell calls. For this episode, we're heading eastward, away from BC and into the heart of Ontario's gold country, where the rules of the game are a bit different than the West. Ontario is the home of major camps like Timmins, Kirkland Lake, Red Lake and Hemlo, and the province has a long track record of permitting and operating mines. In a lot of ways, Ontario is where the phrase mining-friendly jurisdiction is actually backed by decades of production history. Ontario's most famous gold region is the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, and the Timmins Porcupine Camp is one of its crown jewels. The modern story really kicked off with the Porcupine Gold Rush in 1909, when major discoveries like Hollinger and McIntyre helped build the district. And over the next century, the camp produced on the order of 70 million ounces of gold from more than 50 mines. One would think with all this mining the camp would be dry, but there is still a lot to be found. This is because in Ontario, many places you're dealing with glacial cover, swamps, and thick overburden. That means exploration often relies heavily on geophysics, till sampling, and structural interpretation, sometimes more than obvious outcrop prospecting. What separates this video from my previous videos is the fact that ONGold isn't a single project company. The company holds title over 4 separate projects, 3 across Ontario and 1 at the Manitoba-Ontario border. I could do an episode on each of these, but with so many interesting projects to get to, I will briefly summarize each project. For ONGold, the most Ontario-forward project to focus on is the October Gold Project in northeastern Ontario. October is described as a district-scale land package of roughly 271 square kilometres, located within the Timmins Gold Camp, about 105 kilometres southwest of Timmins, within the Swayze Greenstone Belt. The company describes it as accessible by all-season highways and a network of forestry roads. This area matters because it sits in the broader Timmins-Swayze geological environment, and the property covers more than 10 kilometres of a major structural corridor called the Rideout Deformation Zone. In Ontario, these deformation zones are everything. These are the large-scale structures that can localise orogenic gold systems over long distances. October's marketing angle is essentially big structure, big land, underexplored belt. The company also highlights proximity to major regional projects, including IAMGold's Cote mine area and the Borden mine trend. The key point is not that proximity guarantees success, it doesn't, but that the regional system is demonstrably fertile. Now let's talk deposit model. In Ontario Greenstone Belts, the most common economic gold story is orogenic gold, gold hosted in shear zones, deformation corridors, and structural traps, often with quartz carbonate veining, sulfides, and strong alteration along major breaks. That's the conceptual model you're working with at October. Large deformation zone, lots of structural complexity, and the question becomes whether you can find the right traps and continuity. ONGold has reported that work at October included new gold showings and exploration updates, and that another party, Evolution Mining, has been involved in work on the project under an earn-in type arrangement. From a practical standpoint, that's often a good sign for a junior. A better funded partner can move an early-stage project faster, and it forces a more systematic approach than promotional drilling. The next thing I look at is access and infrastructure, because Ontario can be deceptively easy. October is not a helicopter-only project. The company describes year-round access with roads and forestry infrastructure. That's an advantage. Fieldwork costs are generally lower than true fly-in projects, and if something is discovered, the pathway to development is often more realistic than in remote mountain terrain. But there are Ontario challenges too. Field seasons can be impacted by wet ground conditions, blackfly season, forest fire risk, and logistics around swampy terrain and overburden. Even with roads, certain target areas can still require winter access or specialised planning. Now let's widen out from October and look at the rest of ONGold, because it helps us understand the company's strategy. ONGold also has a very large northwestern Ontario project called TPK, which has been expanded significantly through staking. This is a big, early-stage exploration footprint measured in tens of thousands of hectares, and the company has highlighted gold grains in till type exploration logic and a broad, system-scale interpretation. This is classic Ontario exploration where glacial transport and till sampling become key tools. Recent drilling-style news flow at TPK has included reporting of a newly identified sulfide zone with copper and silver with gold, and the company has been active in expanding and refining targets. For an Ontario viewer, this is a reminder that big land packages can host multiple mineral systems. Gold only isn't always the full story. ONGold also holds Monument Bay, which is not in Ontario. It's in northeastern Manitoba near the Ontario border. But it matters because it brings a heavy technical component into the company story. Monument Bay is described as an advanced stage gold and tungsten asset with a very large historical drill database, including over 200,000 metres of historical drilling. This is where we need to be careful and responsible. Monument Bay has a historical mineral estimate that has been cited publicly, on the order of 2.3 million ounces of gold in the measured and indicated categories, and about 720,000 ounces inferred, based on historical technical work. However, this is not automatically a current NI 43101 compliant resource today. Historical estimates can be useful indicators, but they need verification, updated modelling, and qualified person sign-off before they should be treated as current resources. From an educational perspective, this is actually one of the best lessons ONGold can teach. A company can have ounces on paper in the form of a historical estimate, but the market will treat it cautiously until it is brought current through modern verification and updated technical reporting. Now, let's talk management, because in Ontario, management competence often shows up as quiet execution. ONGold's CEO is Kyle Stanfield, and the company highlights his experience in project development, Indigenous consultation and agreements, regulatory engagement, and permitting, specifically referencing involvement in the permitting and environmental assessment pathways for major mines like Rainy River and Magino. That background is relevant because juniors fail as often from execution and engagement as they do from geology. A notable shareholder angle here is Agnico Eagle, which became a strategic shareholder through the Monument Bay transaction, publicly described as a roughly 15% stake. A strategic shareholder doesn't guarantee success, but it can add credibility and potentially support for technical direction, especially in a region where Agnico has deep experience. Stock health and balance sheet matter too. ONGold is still a junior explorer, which means ongoing exploration will almost certainly require financings. The real questions are, how much work can they fund right now, what type of work, and whether they're building value per dollar spent. Ontario exploration can be more cost-effective than helicopter-only jurisdictions, but big land packages and systematic programs still burn capital fast. Q4 reports cash holdings of $13 million, which if used properly could deliver some meaningful work. What I like about this episode choice is that it's not a headline story. It's a company that's trying to assemble and advance district-scale opportunities in Ontario, particularly October Gold in the Swayze Belt, while also holding a bigger historical data asset at Monument Bay and a massive exploration footprint at TPK. So what should we watch next? First, at October Gold, watch whether work progresses from district-scale concept into a more focused structural targeting story, clear trends, repeatable mineralization, and eventually drill targets and results. In late 2025 and into January 2026, ONGold reported results from a 9-hole, 2,169-metre program in the Gold Ridge area of the TPK project. One of the standout results was 19.39 grams per tonne gold over 8.2 metres, including very high-grade subintervals near surface, the kind of intercept that gets explorers excited. There were also meaningful results from other holes, including narrower gold zones and significant copper-silver-gold mineralization. However, not all holes hit strong gold, and many of the higher-grade zones are narrow or deep. Importantly, true widths haven't been defined yet, and continuity between these shoots is not established. These results paint a picture of a structurally complex orogenic system that is encouraging but still early, a real exploration story with clear follow-up needs. Second, watch how ONGold and its partners use Ontario exploration tools, till sampling, geophysics, structural mapping, to vector toward higher confidence targets. In covered terrain, smart targeting is everything. Third, on the company level, watch discipline. Are they doing value-adding exploration that improves the geological thesis? Or are they spreading too thin across too many projects? Fourth, for Monument Bay, watch whether ONGold takes steps to validate and modernize the historical estimate. Confirmatory drilling, updated modelling, and technical reporting. Converting historical estimates into current confidence is one of the most meaningful value creation paths a junior can take. However, this would be a costly drilling endeavour. That's ONGold Resources through an Ontario Gold Country lens. For me, this is a great, clean and forgotten exploration story because it's heavy on geology and process, light on hype, and it forces you to think like an explorer, structure first, targeting discipline, and execution over noise.